Hi there guys, Kate back here and welcome to this channel. Today we will visit one of the most beautiful towns in Switzerland and arguably one of the most underrated. You will see magnificent views over the city from the city's fortress. I'll tell you about IWC, a luxury watchmaker that is actually based here. You'll see hundreds of Orioles windows. It's by far the most I've seen in any town so far. And the gorgeous buildings themselves, many of which are considered to be Swiss national heritage. And if you're traveling by train, you will inevitably pass the Rhine waterfalls. They're the most powerful waterfalls in Europe. They're just a few stops away from the city center, so I would definitely recommend a visit. Old town of Schaffhausen is considered one of the prettiest in Switzerland, on the account of its many oriel windows and lavishly painted facades. Many are of Renaissance era, and many decorated also with sculptures and frescoes. Over 30 buildings here are considered a Swiss national heritage. Very few places in the world can boast such numbers, I think. So Schaffhausen, or from German Schaffhaus, is the capital of Schaffhausen Canton in northern Switzerland, right on the border with Germany. It's on the right bank of River Rhine and west of Lake Constance. The site was first mentioned, interestingly enough, in 1045 as Villa Schaffhausen. So in Middle Ages, they struck their own coins. Therefore, city can boast a history of over 1,000 years. Here you will find many of the fine guild houses and merchant houses that date back to Gothic and Baroque times. Interestingly enough, if you pay attention to the actual depictions on the houses, oftentimes they depict trades. A number of oriel windows are also not surprising, given that city did a lot of trade. If you've seen my St. Gallen video, if you haven't, check it out. I mentioned that oriel windows were used to show status and wealth. And given how many oriel windows you can see here, you might as well be sure that there were a lot of merchants who wanted to show their status and wealth. Well, I've earlier already mentioned the Rhine Falls waterfalls, and interestingly enough, the city itself owns its origins to these waterfalls. Settlement arose because shippers needed somewhere to unload their stacks of goods while avoiding the rapids of the waterfalls. Well, unsurprisingly, perhaps the city was also always a flourishing trading center. The historic center of the city actually has 171 oriel windows, so certainly take your time and enjoy the views. The lively old town is very good for shopping. The town begins with the street market and what is now called Vodegasse. This is also where you will find High Gothic St. Johann Church with its remarkable acoustics. This is a Protestant church today. Its construction began in 1000 and ended in 14th century. So the town is located on the upper Rhine River between the Black Forest and the Lake Constance, surrounded by great vineyards. It's a popular destination for holidays and day trips, great place for biking and long walks. And this is one of the things that I personally love about Switzerland, the fact that no matter where you are, either city, town or a village, a beautiful nature is always within an easy reach. So now to IWC. IWC Schaffhausen has been a leader in luxury watchmaking since 1868. So what's the story and what's the connection to Schaffhausen? It started actually with an American engineer and watchmaker, Florentine Ariosto Jones. Doesn't sound very American, but there you go. At the tender age of 27, while most young men actually were heading to the US in search for greater opportunities, Jones himself went to Switzerland, planning to combine craftsmanship of Swiss with modern engineering technology from the US. Great idea on the surface. Unfortunately, however, his business met with a lot of troubles and eventually he left. So the Rauschenbach's industrial family from Schaffhausen took over the business. Today, it's one of the most famous luxury watch producer. So the heritage of IWC is deeply rooted in an American pioneering spirit and superior Swiss manufacturing. Today, IWC produces some of the highest possible quality watches in the world. And now to the most famous landmark of the city, the Munot Fortress. It has been proudly overlooking the town of Schaffhausen for well over 400 years. The tower contains the quarters of Munot watchmen that actually ring the bell for 5 minutes every evening at 9 p.m., as they did in the medieval times, telling everyone to be careful, lock their doors, and prepare for the night. After Schaffhausen joined the Swiss Confederation in 1501, and particularly after the Reformation in 1529, there was a desire to strengthen the city's fortifications. Munot was built for over 25 years, unfortunately partially using slave labor. Some features of Munot indicate that Schaffhausen residents were not actually all that interested in seriously fortifying the city, but mostly in creating an impressive representative building, which I believe they certainly did. Some, after the completion, started actually seriously doubting whether Munot fortifications would be able to withstand a serious, powerful artillery attack. However, luckily for Munot and citizens of Schaffhausen, it was under a military occupation only once. In 1799, French held up Munot against Austrians on the way back home, but after a few skirmishes, fled across the Rhine without doing any serious damage to the city or the fortress. Now to my favorite spot in the city, the Rose Garden. It is situated next to the Munot Fortress entrance. In 1981, the town's nursery and Swiss Association of Rose Lovers, yes, there is such a thing, designed the French Renaissance garden style. Terrace has an amazing view overlooking the city, and the entire collection consists of approximately 170 species of roses. So I don't think you can beat that. Beautiful garden roses and the view. So no wonder that this is one of the most beloved places of the city, with many locals celebrating their important family events. As you could see behind me, it's one of those events. So definitely take time in the rose garden and enjoy the view. So if you're not too tired after all of the walking, I would highly recommend making it all the way to the top of the Munot Fortress. The Munot Fortress itself can be seen for the miles, but if you make it to the top, you will be able to see far and wide. So this ring-shaped stronghold was built between 1564 and 1589. It was designed by Albrecht Dürer. As I pointed out, was not as well maybe designed and built as a fortress, but more as an impressive construction. And in that, they certainly have succeeded. So from here, you'll be able to see quite far into the hilly areas of Schaffhausen, the hilly region of Randen, famous for its wine. So there are lovely walks and bicycle rides that you could take and taste Pinot Noir. Region is famous for its Pinot Noir wine. And one of the most famous walks is a 1-hour walk along Transendingen. That's a wine trail here in Schaffhausen. And now to Münster Schaffhausen. Münster is one of the two main churches of Old Town. It was built in 1064 AD as originally Romanesque basilica, but after centuries of economic and political decline, Michael Agendorfer, the last abbot of the monastery, initiated the last renovation in 1521. However, during the Swiss Reformation, the abbey was abolished and Münster became the second main church of the town in 1524. And that would be pretty much all that I had to say about Schaffhausen. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Like the video if you liked it. For every content creator, it's so nice to have that like. Subscribe if you would like to see more content, and see you soon.